It failed spectacularly. They had grand designs. They had all of these incredible numbers that they kept showing. They were like, we're making $10 million a month. What happened? No, Glaze, you called it. Yes, I did. And now, lo and behold, the right-wing media ecosystem is unironically crippling under the load-bearing weight that the Trump administration's success has cultivated for them. Oh, anyway, we got, apparently there's an implosion taking place inside of the Daily Wire. I don't know the veracity of these claims, but turns out they're hiring a bankruptcy attorney and also laying off 25% of their staff. Obviously, we're going to be talking about that today because it's not just drama, it's also the news. And it's the perfect intersection of drama and news. This is something that your boy has been talking about for quite a bit, as a matter of fact. You guys know this already. I've been talking about right-wing commentary and where right-wing commentary has moved in the world of N-shitification for quite a bit. This is actually a decent segue into that side of the planet as well. The reality of the matter is Daily Wire was always propped up by billionaires and millionaires alike, and it was never going to be a self-sustaining operation. They took some big hits in the process with Candace Owens, who, came out and was overtly anti-Israel. That was a big no-no. Not the anti-Semitism, mind you, but the anti-Israel perspective was bad. I also told you Brett Cooper was the only one with motion at the Daily Wire. I told you. These were the only two people that were carrying the Daily Wire torch. Ben Shapiro, no motion. He's out. Desperately trying to cultivate the edgy boy population to the best of his ability while he still cries about Israel every goddamn day. It's not going to happen. The edgy boys have moved on. They want anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment. Make no mistake. It's kind of interesting that we have arrived at this situation. On the other side, of course, you have the Asmongoldian rise. Obviously, that is seemingly what people want. People want someone to people want someone that resembles them to look over a Donald Trump video and just go, yeah, based. Don't make me tap that sign again. I told you this. I told you this for months. I told you this.
What if ever?
And here is the proof in the pudding. Let's take a look at Ben Shapiro's videos. Oh my God. Barely cracking. Derek Chauvin, 19,000 views. 19,000 views. Derek Chauvin's trial was nothing short of mob rule. He is so desperately trying to bring back the edgy boys because he knows this is what they want. This is what the audience demands. He's like, well, you see, I actually want to make sure. I actually want to make sure that, everybody understands that I am a racist, indeed. Meanwhile, let's take a look at Asmongold's numbers real quick. Once again, Asmongold's numbers. Asmongold TV at only 3.5 million subscribers is pumping out content. Our government is R-worded. 980,000 views. Okay? He's actually made a pivot back to gaming in a little bit more gaming pivot recently. Trump just can't stop 835,000 views. You cannot deny the analytics here, okay? Because obviously in the field of slop in general, there is no qualitative assessment, only quantitative ones, okay? Understand that this is what the market demands. The market wants a sweaty dude, okay, that resembles the market itself. They don't want a clean-cut Ben Shapiro to take this smarmy, entitled, educated, elitist attitude. They want Asmongold. They've spoken, okay? They have spoken yet again. Meanwhile, of course, Brett Cooper is popping off spectacularly in ways that I could never even imagine for myself. As you can see, videos of hers getting 1 million views, 700,000 views, 400,000 views. Can boobs save the planet? 400,000 views. She's cooking. She's cooking big time. And I said this. I said that she was cooking already. When she was at the Daily Wire, I repeatedly told you she was the only one with motion at the Daily Wire alongside Candace Owens. No glaze, you called it. Yes, I did. And now, lo and behold, the right-wing media ecosystem is unironically crippling under the load-bearing weight that the Trump administration's success has cultivated for them. Too many options, too much success. They're suffering from their success, and the only ones who actually can move in this volatile, fluid marketplace is Brett Cooper and Candace Owens and people that can come across as younger or come across as more personable than the likes of Ben Shapiro, who still represents a Fox News adjacent point of commentary. This is it. This is the problem. This is something that Benny Boy will never be able to achieve unless he decides to start talking about, titties in video games or whatever the culture warriors care about now. People abandoned intellectualism, and now also they abandoned fake intellectualism. No more nerds. Exactly. Same with Jordan Peterson. So they established this expensive outlet that was propped up by, obviously, billionaire donors, an endless funnel of money coming their way. And look where that got them. Daily Wire's media empire is falling apart. Death by 1,000 cuts, I think. As I told you, that was what was going on. I noticed this a while back when I just stopped seeing Ben Shapiro on the timeline. I was like, why is he no longer relevant? Why doesn't he piss me off as much? And here it is. James Lee, independent journalist for Breaking Points, says, what started Jeremy Boring stepping down has now spiraled into mass layoffs and another firing of senior executive Alyssa Cordova, the vice president of PR. Here are all the juicy details. The Daily Wire just fired Alyssa Cordova, their VP of Public Relations, and according to sources, Alyssa Cordova was Jeremy's minion. One was responsible for crafting the company's aggressive and paranoid media strategy. Cordova allegedly stalked former employees online, kept folders of clip videos of their enemies, helped wage internal vendettas under the guise of PR. One source, disaster of their PR strategy over the last year was cooked up between Jeremy and Alyssa. Mass layoffs ensue. The Daily Wire is also shuttering its kids division entirely, roughly a quarter of the company. They tried to do kids propaganda. It was dog shit. It was awful. It had no motion. Doesn't this mean that they were successful, though? Their goal was ideological. They pumped right-wing content and groomed the new generation. Daily Wire did not do that. At most, Daily Wire did that by elevating voices, propping them up like Brett Cooper. No, they were not ideologically successful, or rather, the success of right-wing ideology was not because of Daily Wire. It was because of Trump, and it was because of all the independent podcasters that are not even associated with the Daily Wire. Those podcasters couldn't even elevate the Daily Wire, as a matter of fact. It failed spectacularly. They had grand designs. They had all of these incredible numbers that they kept showing. They were like, we're making $10 million a month. What happened? Steven Crowder also fell apart in this process, for the record. Obviously, Steven Crowder also fell apart. He got a fat Rumble deal, 18,000 views in one day, by the way. 5.7 million subscribers. Look at his YouTube channel. 10,000 views, 40,000 views, 28,000 views. These guys killed their channels. They could not move in an organic trajectory that would consistently maintain eyeballs on the stuff that they were doing. So they had to move on to Rumble, where everything is botted. Remember, the Daily Wire Steven Crowder saga. Steven Crowder says, $50 million, that's a slave labor salary. That's a slave contract. How dare you? If you can't let me be as racist as I want to be, then f*** you. And to a certain degree, I understood where Steven Crowder was coming from because, obviously, you're hiring Steven so he can be racist. So why would you shut off his money faucet when he accidentally is too racist in the way that you want him to be, and then all of a sudden his channel gets demonetized? That was the entire point. But all of these guys are falling apart. This is the old guard of conservative independent media. And because the market is so incredibly flooded with right-wing commentary everywhere you look, people want something more. They don't want a boring man to just tell you, this is what you need to think. They want someone to have a right-wing perspective that is simple to consume and simpler to understand for an increasingly dumber audience, that is going to cover what really matters, which is titties in video games, okay, boobs in video games, black characters in video games. That is what has done them in for the most part, I think. That's it. Yeah, Brett and Candace tap into the culture war. They cover Blake Lively stuff, and they do it very well. They cover it from a right-wing shift, a right-wing perspective, aggressively. They pursue cultural touch points that normies care about. They also understand the language of this environment. They can easily just find themselves on the Sean Ryan show, on the Joe Rogan experience, on Theo Vaughn, as a matter of fact. They do it so well. They do it much, much better than like the likes of Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is Ben Shapiro everywhere he goes. Why don't normies like you? Normies love me. I think your brain is, I hate you, Hassan. What? No, normies don't have, I would say that on the left, I'm able to do something similar to what like Brett Cooper does as well. But if you're talking about like normies, you have to figure out if you're talking about normies that are extremely online, in which case, no, they don't. But if you talk about like normies, like people who have jobs, people who live in the real world and maybe every now and then see clips of mine or YouTube videos of mine, then those normies don't dislike me at all. There's a lot more of them. They're just not online and they don't have a lot of motion online. You got caught and backtracked? No, you're misunderstanding my point. I wouldn't consider the unwashed gaming masses or people who spend every waking moment watching, Asmongold or any number of these different content creators like normies. So, in any case, this is a thing that I've been tracking closely because it's obviously directly related to my job. And now there's finally some movement in this direction. And internally, people are furious. One source put it bluntly: if they let Jeremy go a long time ago, many people will still have jobs today. Everyone knows it. With a quarter of the company gone and its core leadership in flames, the big question now is, what happens to the people that are still there? Can Matt Walsh, Michael J. Knowles, and the rest stay insulated from the chaos? Or is it just the beginning of more turmoil to come? And that's precisely where it is. So if I were to segment all of the many different ways that this entire franchise fell apart, I would start by saying it was always destined to fall apart. It was never a self-sustaining operation. It was entirely too costly, and therefore it demanded a faucet of money from millionaire, billionaire donors who value the propaganda that this represents. Now that Trump's in power, maybe there's not as much interest in dumping boatloads of cash in their direction. That's one part of this. The other part of this, of course, and this was, I always told you, like, this was ridiculous. Exclusive. The Daily Wire made $22 million in commerce from commerce in 2023. It was entirely too costly for them to engage in media, like a higher level of media, like movies. The Daily Wire Studios, I think, is like also super costly. The kids shows were really bad and also really silly. But beyond that, the landscape grew. The right-wing media ecosystem grew tremendously over the past couple of years, with many apolitical content creators also feeding that itch that people had for right-wing commentary. And last but not least, they lost key performers, both Brett Cooper and Candace Owens. They lost Candace Owens, and I think that was also an important pivot that the Daily Wire had made at that point. First, they told Steven Crowder, you can't be racist. Some people looked at that, even if they don't with Steven Crowder, and thought, yeah, why can't he be racist? We want him to be racist. We're not going to watch Steven Crowder, but that says something about the Daily Wire. I like my racist commentary. If you don't let Steven Crowder be racist, that means you are woke. So that was number one. Number two, Candace Owens represents a growing, very sizable movement amongst the right, but also even in the apolitical fandoms. Candace Owens' takes on Israel, while still guided by a healthy dose of anti-Semitism, is infinitely more, how do I say it? Palatable? Like it's seen as like a more common sense perspective than the Ben Shapiro position is. So for the apolitical people, they look at Candace Owens' statements on Israel and they go, yeah, that makes sense. And then they hear all the anti-Semitism and they also go, yeah, that really makes sense, which is very dangerous and very scary, but that's for a different day. As a matter of fact, it's something that I talk about quite frequently, but for the sake of this argument, for the sake of this conversation, Candace Owens is seen as a more truthful orator than the Daily Wire is, for not just her anti-Semitism, which is also a measure of truthfulness in the eyes of the audience that wants this kind of content, okay, not to say it is truthful, but also for the fact that she is overtly and openly anti-Israel. So when they lost that, they lost another group of people that were like, what the fuck? What do you, okay, so you guys are just like, you guys just love Israel more than you love anything else, it seems. So while the neoliberal aesthetics within the Democratic Party has fallen out of favor, so has the neocon aesthetics fallen out of favor on the right. That was Trump 1 and also Trump 2, ironically enough. So for people who don't have any loyalty or association or positive association with Israel, or people who think what Israel is doing is gross and inhumane, or for anti-Semites who want to shit on Jews and Israel is a great vehicle to do that, you know, Candace Owens scratches that itch significantly better than the likes of Ben Shapiro. So regardless of all of the puff pieces that were written about from Axios and everywhere else talking about how much money they were making, it was crazy. It's gangbusters. I never truly believed that. I could not comprehend how they were able to generate such revenues. And it seems like they weren't. Or maybe their overhead was insane. Yeah, Charlie Kirk himself found new light in TikTok. Charlie Kirk moved to TikTok and blew up over there. Charlie Kirk on YouTube, garbage. Charlie Kirk's YouTube channel analytics are garbage. Think about that, guys. My channel is infinitely smaller. I am a Twitch streamer predominantly. First and foremost, I'm a Twitch streamer. And you look at my analytics, and it hasn't been great this past week, let's be real. But if you look at my analytics overall, for a channel with 1.5 million subscribers, like, I'm doing significantly better than these other channels are, with the exception of when I do a video like Another Journalist Killed by Israel, and it gets obviously blacklisted on the algorithm. So that's crazy. That is like, that shouldn't be the case. These guys are like they're making tens of millions of dollars, right? Like they're generating tens of millions of dollars in revenue. I should not, especially with like no IP restrictions whatsoever on my content, like I should not be getting these numbers that are better overall on average than the numbers that like the Daily Wire is getting. And yet that is where we are, interestingly enough. So too much overhead, too costly of an endeavor with not enough ad revenue. There was this too. Murdoch shops for podcasts. Yeah, that's different. That's a separate story. Why didn't you upload the interview on your own channel? Hasanabi Archive is doing numbers on this one. I don't want to hear it, okay? I hate that goddamn bot channel so much. I want to laser it into the ether. Like, it is so psychotic that this Vietnamese bot channel literally just rips every single one of my videos and uploads it with the shittiest editing, because they're using like an AI tool to do the edits too, before my own channel can publish it. It's so goddamn annoying. The edits are terrible. It's dog shit. I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to take it down. I don't know how to take down this channel. It's incredibly annoying. I don't know how to take it down without taking the rest of the fan channels down. That's the problem. Okay, I've been trying. Do not support Hasanabi archive, and I'm also I'm annoyed because like we didn't upload it fast enough. It's obviously impossible for us to upload it fast enough in comparison to the goddamn bot channel that uses goddamn bots to edit their videos. But you know, very frustrating situation regardless. Edited in advance, release same time. What do you mean edited in advance? There's no way to do it. Anyway, whatever. Asmongold hired his top 3 clip channels years ago, and that's how they popped off so hard. Maybe you should do the same. Brother, stop. Just stop, okay? I don't want to hear a goddamn suggestion from people who don't understand the process behind the scenes. Oh my Lord, dude. I don't want to hire the clip channels because they make more money this way. What the fuck are you talking about? Me hiring clip channels would imply that I would be taking over their revenue. You understand? And then I would have to then eliminate all of the other fan channels. What are you talking about? That's not my... You guys are so stupid! Oh my God, we already started off on a... I'm already pissed off. Pay Hasanabi Productions! You're stupid. You're stupid. That's not how that works. That means I would have to retain IP ownership over all of the random fan channels only so I can have the 1 or 2 channels that I've decided are appropriate and allowed. God damn, dude. I started, it's been not even like 4 minutes and I'm so annoyed. In order for me to only allow certain channels, that would mean I would have to also enforce copyright restrictions on my content. And if I were to do that, then no fan channels would exist. And my editors are great. Okay? It's insane. It's insane. I can't believe it. I can't believe that we're starting. And it's like one of the most basic principles that I've maintained here that chatters seemingly understand, but they clearly don't. The interview was great. And in the aftermath of the interview, she posted, I guess, an Instagram story. All right, and we'll look at that in a second. Hold on. Yeah, there are multiple archive channels too. Like they literally all the way it works is like they take over older channels. They buy out older channels with like subs, and then they pump it with like botted likes. They just do a whole bunch of shit, and they do everything wrong. YouTube is aware of them. Don't know why they don't like do anything about it. It's very annoying. Hold on, Austin, do you want food? I mean, you had a bagel earlier, but I don't know. Okay, I'll just get you some leb ass food if you want. Yeah. Here, just orders. Oh wait, hold on. I'm gonna order something for my mama. I mean, you can come on at this point if you want. I've changed. What do you mean? No, I just put my shirt back on because it's cold. Oh yeah, we can do that when you come in.
I mean, I'm ready whenever you're ready to have fun.
Yeah, I mean, this is my fun. This is how I have fun. Yeah, Austin is saying I'm ready to come in whenever you want to have fun, and I'm telling him this is how I have fun.
Okay. We could cover. There's a plane story we could cover too.
Okay, I like that. That's your understanding of fun. That's what you consider to be fun.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get this for my mom as well, and then here, whatever you want. Yeah, we got couples fits. Yeah. In any case, I feel like PragerU is in a similar. PragerU is owned by the Daily Wire. I'm pretty sure at this point. In structure and output, yet they're going through the same troubles that we know of. Was it likely saving PragerU? No, PragerU is owned by the Daily Wire too now. But yeah, this is where's the other story from Will Sommer? Give me the Will Sommer tweet thread about his perspective, because I think that'll be also instructive. But yeah, PragerU is also owned by the Daily Wire. But yeah, it's finally coming to. These costly desires are finally coming to a costly end. An untimely end. Or I guess, like, if you think about it, it's one that I predicted would happen eventually. But I guess it's happening now sooner rather than later. Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire has been hit by layoffs just a few weeks after CEO Jeremy Boring, who was trying to become some sort of conservative entertainment media mogul, stepped down. A Daily Wire spokesman tells me, as a part of our ongoing plan to better align resources with business priorities and growth areas, the Daily Wire has made the decision to streamline and in some cases reduce our workforce. This decision was based on business needs and operational efficiencies. We are deeply grateful to our impacted employees for their contributions and are providing them with severance and career transition support. Our focus remains on delivering the highest quality content and experiences to our subscribers while ensuring the long-term success of our business. The USAID money dries up fast. No joke. There's been some speculation on the right about that. That's hilarious. I mean, if you want, you can.
Well, no,
Is someone talking about some
other
stuff
that's
too?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna look at my laptop and then I'll come back.
Okay, all right, you do that. Okay, he's gonna upload some Fansly content.
So I'll be back by the time the food gets
All right.
I'll be right back.
A crack in Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire. CEO Jeremy Boring helped build the conservative media empire, and now with no fanfare, he's out. Will Sommer writes for The Bulwark. PragerU isn't owned by Daily Wire. It's his own nonprofit media org. Okay, I was wrong. Sorry. PragerU is funded by the same people that funded Daily Wire, for the record. Turmoil in the house of Shapiro. Conservative mega commentator Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire empire announced a big shakeup. On Tuesday, co-CEO Jeremy Boring was abruptly stepping down. A contentious, outspoken executive, Boring had become almost as much a face of the company as Shapiro himself. He positioned Daily Wire into the success story of the right-wing digital media and ambitious attempt to swing the culture rightward. Rumors have been swirling of a massive acquisition in the offing. While Shapiro lives in Florida, Boring has been building the Daily Wire's main Nashville wing into a right-leaning content juggernaut. Along with the expected podcast and YouTube operation, Daily Wire has a streaming operation offering documentaries and conservative educational miniseries. For conservative preschoolers, their Bent Key streaming app hosts a combination of original programming, a puppet show, for example, and a chinchilla-themed cartoon, kind of like Bluey, and handpicked episodes from well-loved shows that have been checked and rechecked to make sure they are respectful of your family's values. In Profiles and Media Biz interviews, the 46-year-old Boring was positioned as a 21st century Rupert Murdoch, claiming the Daily Wire raked in $200 million in revenue last year, which I don't believe. Boring's superfans could even buy his eponymous anti-woke razor and chocolate brands. But as of Tuesday, all of that is on ice. In his press release, Daily Wire said that Boring was trading his co-CEO position for an advisory role, handling the company's creative projects, and that he'll appear on a monthly podcast. We can't wait to see what he does next, Shapiro said, in not a particularly warm statement. That's an abrupt drop in ambition from a man. They were besties, too, for the record. Like that, Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring were besties behind the scenes. Like, that's how they started it together. So it's like their indoctrination attempts failed. Their media empire attempts failed. And now they're restructuring. But without talent, without manpower in this media space, and without a steady flow of right-wing funds coming in to save the company, it's not going to work. You lose the Brett Coopers and the Candace Owenses of the world, and you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to survive, because at the end of the day, the media space is a very delicate landscape. It's very tough to make it out the mud, even on the right-wing side, especially when there is real competition on the right-wing side, and it's not just about who gets the most right-wing funding. Maybe old heads will remember the NRA was taken down multiple pegs, not because they lost their funding or whatever. They were taken down because of their media operation. The NRA tried to do a media operation and failed spectacularly. NRA TV was a massive failure. But just like the Daily Wire's crash and burn, from the ashes of NRA TV, multiple content creators sprung up. Dan Bongino is an NRA TV guy, just like Brett Cooper is a former Daily Wire commentator. Think about that. Dan Bongino, who is now the deputy director of the FBI, and before that, a relatively successful podcaster with a fat Rumble check, I suspect, because he was always on Rumble, became a known entity as a consequence of NRA TV. So these guys, all they do is prop up media talent, and then they fall apart because it's not a consistent endeavor. It's an endeavor that requires a tremendous amount of backing. In November interview on Puck's Grill Room podcast, Boring said he wanted to turn Daily Wire into the next New York Times and that he fell asleep every night dreaming of selling the company for a big payoff. So much for that. what's going on here? If there's one thing people in the fractious world of right-wing digital media can agree on, is that there's a backstory here we aren't getting. I don't really buy this or believe this. Podcast host Elijah Schaefer, one of Boring's many nemesis, said on his YouTube show on Tuesday, I think it's a way nastier behind the scenes. Yeah, I also believe that, even though the person that's being quoted here is also a notorious figure in the right-wing spaces. How do they fail so much with ads? Ginormous overhead. Impossible to compete. I'm sorry, guys. If your overall output is all but a fraction of a dude who doesn't change his t-shirt for months and has a dead rat as an alarm clock with like tens of millions of dollars of funding, if you can't touch a fraction of a dude who has a blood wall in his house, then you're cooked. How can you compete against that? His overhead is nothing. It's literally just the dusty ass PC. That's it. And he's like not even 10xing, 100xing Daily Wire's media properties by just playing a bunch of Trump videos and going, yeah, based. You can't be in that marketplace. You can't. You're cooked. As we should make one of those comical swimming pools full of gold like in those cartoons, not like he spends the money he makes. Exactly. Despite what counts as successes, Daily Wire host Matt Walsh's Am I Racist was the top grossing documentary of 2024. The company's been bleeding talent. Owens has, despite her extreme views, built a larger platform for herself since leaving the company. Back at the Daily Wire headquarters, campaigns like the new effort to convince Trump to pardon Derek Chauvin, the Minneapolis cop convicted of murdering George Floyd, have landed with comparative thuds. Right-wing commentator Jason Whitlock, for example, pointed out that pardoning Chauvin would be a deranged move for the first days of the Trump administration. Jason Whitlock is calling you out, dude. That's crazy. One particularly frothy, drama-filled debacle in the last months of boring CEO-ship centered on Brett Cooper, a Daily Wire YouTuber podcaster who comes off like a younger female version of Shapiro, as I've always called her, Femme Shapiro. No one gives me credit for it. Last fall, as rumors circulated online that Boring and Cooper were at odds. Cooper's on-camera role was increasingly filled by her friend and producer, a woman named Reagan Conrad, prompting speculation that Boring was using her to replace Cooper. When Cooper finally quit the Daily Wire in December, Conrad was indeed slotted into the now vacant host role. Under Conrad, the show's views are down. Meanwhile, Cooper, like Owens before, is building her own channel on YouTube. In one particularly rough moment, Boring insisted in an online video that Conrad had not taken acting classes to seem more like Cooper. It's hurting my feelings a little bit that Brett hasn't done more to defend her friend, Boring said. Cooper celebrated Boring's exit herself on Tuesday, posting a smiling Jimmy Fallon gif on X. To be fair to Boring, the Daily Wire may be facing some broader media trends that were out of his control. The energy on the right-wing internet is headed in an increasingly radical Nick Fuentes-style direction. And Boring and his crew look dull by comparison. Yup. Will is someone who tracks right-wing radicalism by his profession. This is what he has done, so he's way more tapped in than the average media personality on this sort of stuff, so he's right. He's right. Zoomers are groypers. If you are under the age of 35 and you find yourself in the right-wing media landscape, you either are a person that considers themselves to be, did I say Will Neff? I meant Will Sommer. Will Sommer. I don't think I said Will Neff. Will Sommer, the author of this article, the journalist. Oh my God, chatters, Jesus Christ, I have an audience of morons as well. Holy I just said Will, I didn't say last name. Will Sommer, the journalist. So anyway, as I was explaining, as demonstrated by my audience's like level of stupidity here as well, audiences are getting dumber and dumber, okay? They want dumb slop. So either, I bracket it as such, either you're like an apolitical kind of guy who sees common sense, male bravado from the otherwise apolitical center-right to far-right media ecosystem, or you're tapped in and you are political, you have an expressive political ideology, and that centers entirely around neo-Nazi sentiment, like straightforward groyper neo-Nazi politics. If you're under the age of 35, those are the two brackets for you. Okay? That's it. That is the only game in town. And Daily Wire does not fit any of those needs because they're far too nerdy and far too robotic, far too professional to broach the alpha dog apolitical space, and they are far too invested in the defense of Israel to hit the anti-Semitic notes that they need to hit, while also, because they're expressly pro-Israel, it's virtually impossible for them to hit those anti-Semitic notes, even though they try. So that's where they're at. In this increasingly growing right-wing media landscape where basically every content creator is like center-right to far-right, it's very hard for them to keep up with output that is infinitely more interesting to the average viewer. They got outgrouped. I mean, they also understand this. That's why they hired Candace Owens initially. They hired her because she's anti-Semitic, because she is a black face on white supremacist messaging. They wanted to have a black woman say the same things that you hear at a Klans meet, okay? Which she did. She played that role very well. But the problem wasn't the anti-Semitism. The problem was post-October 7. Her anti-Semitism packaged with anti-Israel sentiment made it a major issue for Benny Boy, especially, and Jeremy Boring. These guys are major Zionists. They love Israel. It's interesting to think, because they knew Candace Owens was anti-Semitic. Ben Shapiro does not care about anti-Semitism. He has time and time again repeated this. He does not care about anti-Semitism at all. He cares about anti-Israel sentiment. That's why he's defended people who are pro-Israel but anti-Semitic. In certain terms, too, like openly, not even a secret. This is not like a speculative matter at all. Ben Shapiro famously, as I like to pull that classic tweet off, has defended Ann Coulter's anti-Semitic statements and has famously said, Ann Coulter, regarding Jews, awful, definitely anti-Semitic. However, she's pro-Israel, so I will not be losing sleep over it. So just remember that. It was not Candace Owens' anti-Semitism that got her fired. It was her anti-Semitism partnered with her anti-Israel sentiment. That was the thing that got her the boot from Daily Wire. Here it is. Ann Coulter tweets regarding Jews. Awful, nonsensical. Ann Coulter is also super pro-Israel and has always been so I won't lose sleep. Boring, who wears a key around his neck that reminds him of the Texas Theater where he puts on plays as a young man, is, like so many in right-wing media, James O'Keefe, a wannabe entertainer at heart. In 2023, he announced that the Daily Wire was undertaking a massive project of turning the fantasy series into a streaming show, which was initially set to premiere in 2024. Boring is credited as the series creator and director and also looks thrilled on on-set videos the Daily Wire has posted. That's the problem. This is the other issue. A lot of these guys couldn't cut it in Hollywood. They're failed theater kids. So when they're failed theater kids, they never let that go. And they always falsely assumed that they failed in Hollywood because Hollywood is too woke and not because their output is dog shit. That's the problem. That is the issue. So when they engage in these creative endeavors that have to be standalone projects, because at the end of the day, your political motivations are not going to be enough for you to sit through 2-hour pieces of media, right? Especially in the age of shortening attention spans, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You have to make good product. And if you don't make good product, then ultimately people won't watch it. There is not enough political motivation that will cause you to sit through 2 hours of slop. You can sit through an Asmongold video that's 25 minutes long, especially if he sings the right tune, right? But you're not gonna sit through a movie, okay? There are plenty of conservative directors. There are plenty of conservative or center-right actors in Hollywood. Hollywood is liberal, yes, but ultimately they do have a conservative association, I would say. And they have some radical ones as well. But the reality of the matter is their product is better. That's it. But 2024 has come and gone, and so far the first season of the Pendragon cycle still hasn't been released. Awkwardly, it's taken so long that Cooper, who plays supporting roles as sort of Woodland's pagan character, has already left the company on what appears to be on bad terms. It's impossible to watch the show's production diaries on YouTube, which feature months of filming in Hungary and Italy, actors performing elaborate real stunts over rampaging bulls, and dozens of extras fighting in the marshes of Danube River, and not think this has been comically expensive. Certainly more than just filming another YouTube show with Ben Shapiro would have been. And that is where we are. too much overhead, not enough output, can't outcompete with the moving market. And now their franchise is crumbling in front of our eyes.
How long was it after you left the Daily Wire that
Adult friendships are really hard.
when you left, your maid of honor,
What does this next chapter look like?
do you want to say anything to her? What was the final straw? I mean,
There wasn't
almost
a-
nobody would give that up
Yeah.
and start from scratch. And that's why I respect you so much.
No, it was terrifying. I had to, Alex and I had a conversation. This was not this is a lot of thinking and praying and analyzing. And
If I was in charge of the Daily Wire, I would have never let her go, dude. Are you kidding me? Remember how much I kept saying, like, even though her initial, like, fake, I'm actually authentically in my bedroom act was lame as hell. Obviously, I very quickly recognized that she was capturing the attention, especially by weaving in conservative attitudes into, cultural criticisms. Like, she was doing pop culture lifestyle shit. She was younger, more vibrant, and also able to not make annoying, bland, conservative propaganda the centerpiece of her commentary. That's why she succeeded, and that's why she's still succeeding.
we looked at each other and we're just kind of like, are we basically willing to lose everything and start from scratch? Because again, we had, Alex had just started his own business. We had bought this farm that was like, it was a stretch, but we really wanted it. And I was like, I could leave and it could backfire on me immediately. Nobody could care. Maybe I wouldn't make any money. Maybe I would have no anything. And I basically just had to decide, like, does that matter to me? And it didn't.
And it worked.
Yeah. But it wasn't because I was
subs.
like, yeah.
1 million subs in 1 month when you launched your new show.
Yeah. It was very humbling and gratifying. I was like, okay. But it's terrifying. And I literally, like, our conversation was like, are we willing? My mom had just decided to move to Nashville. I was like, are we willing to, like, go move back in with her and, like, literally start over? If, like, you're funding our life now, Alex, and I can't help it all and I'm making no money, like, if all of it went away. And at the end of the day, like, I don't really care about being famous. Like, it comes with what I do, but I would be just as happy if I was telling stories in a different capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's finding the root of what you love to do and then applying it. I don't need this to survive. I don't crave it. I do it because I love sharing stories with people. I love hopefully making them think differently about the world. I love making people feel like they're not alone in whatever they're going through, whether that's like on my subscription platform where we do.
Bro, this is literally verbatim, bar for bar, what I say, except for, bass boosted on the right wing side. She's talked about rebranding herself as a pop culture commentator to reach a more ideologically varied audience. Her first video with her YouTube rebrand was on Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Exactly. I'm not even kidding. This is low key. I have these interests myself, right? Like, these are organic interests that I have, and I certainly lean into them. And in the process, I want to make sure that people have a semblance of charitability towards the things that I talk about from the perspective that I talk about, so that they see the world in a different way. Okay? Are you not a clout goblin? See, that's what I mean. This is like the stupid the stupid method of this is, oh, he's just a clout goblin. The difference here is that there is a project here. There's an ideological project here. And I think a lot of people get it and some people don't. So they just have like a stupid perspective on it and they go, ah, you're a clout goblin. Yeah, sure. Okay. The question I have for you is that if all I cared about was clout, why the fuck would I talk about Israel all the goddamn time? Are you stupid? Like, especially in the way that I talk about it, where I also don't even entertain a second of anti-Semitic commentary on the subject matter. If I wanted clout and I had an anti-Israel position, you bet your ass if all I gave a shit about was clout and not like presenting my vision for the world, I would be anti-Semitic as fuck. Look at all the top anti-Israel commentators that get so much motion on the matter. It is quite literally uninterrupted, full-blown, the Jews are responsible for it. Either I would never mention Israel or never mention any politics whatsoever and just simply talk about, like, you know, other shit, have fun, you know, and do like silly content. Or if I were to do politics, I would just be right-wing. That's it. Like, there's no reason. I was literally about to compare the way you two explain your passions in a very similar fashion. Yes, I think what she's saying here is really interesting because I even suspect that she might be cribbing my shit a little bit, because this is what I have said in interviews down to this is what I have said in interviews down to like the verbiage that she's using. And we already know that they were jacking my shit at the Daily Wire when she first started. So, you know, you're so brave. I didn't say it because I'm brave. I'm not. Okay. I don't know why you guys have this like incredibly antagonistic relationship with anything I say. Like, no, I'm so brave, dude. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant. I said, me. I'm brave. That's not my point at all. Isn't she a far right grifter? Why are we relating and watching this trash? No, I'm saying that like, this is a person who wanted to make a media career for themselves. And I think that they found a venue in right-wing commentary, but they are also very aware of other content creators in the space and have been able to pick up on like whatever is successful in that. I've been trying to do this, but obviously as a leftist and right-wing commentators are dominating these spaces. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Watched Adolescents in the studio this morning. Both were amazing. Thanks for recommending them. Yeah. Especially in like female-centered spaces too, as Taylor Lorenz reported on, there's a lot of pop culture commentary that is like expressly right-wing. It's really interesting. It's not just the male-dominated space on the independent side of online news and online commentary that's like super right-wing, where your expectation from a fitness content creator is that they're going to say some suspicious shit. I think even like T channels and drama channels also participate in this, and they have like a predominantly female audience. I got sana tavuk aldım bir de yine köfte. Yeah.
Do our Dear Brett series, and I'm able to talk to people. Like, I had a girl last week, you know, talk to me about, you know, she has a grandfather with dementia who is, you know, forgetting who she is and has gotten violent and is like, how do you?
Okay, I'm going to skip the rest.
Reagan, is that her name? Took over the comments section. How did that feel?
Friendships are hard.
Are you guys still friends?
I don't say so.
Would you like to still be friends?
Of course.
Also, she's not super pro-Israel, it seems. Oh, Brett liked this post from Candace? Yeah, of course. Dude, you can't be in that age group and just like express a super pro-Israel sentiment. You're literally just like whittling away your audience. That's it. There's a market for it, but that market is in like mostly liberal spaces. You can be pro-Israel. You can be overtly pro-Israel, but you're not going to get a lot of motion from the right. You're not even going to get a lot of motion from the left. There's like for a younger audience especially, being pro-Israel and overtly pro-Israel is immediately like, oh, you must be a grifter. Even being anti-Israel and then being against anti-Semitism for many people, especially in younger audiences, tracks as inauthentic. It's really interesting. Like if you're anti-Zionist, if you're like a dedicated anti-Zionist for decades, like, you know, someone like myself who's been doing this for 10 years, but you're also combative against anti-Semitism in general, younger audiences look at that and go, you're fake, dude. You're phony. Authenticity is tracked by being incredibly right-wing. That's what it is. It's just, especially online, people go, oh, these people are demonstrating their vices, and that means they're being authentic. Yeah, the anti-Semitic side of the right is winning the war on the right, for sure. Absolutely. Not trying to glaze, but I will say your commentary has had a super significant influence on me and the people in my life. My super right-wing father, my family's Jewish, but he is not, recently told me he now supports Palestinian emancipation after I brought up some points for me and Noah and my own research. Thanks for all you do. Free Palestine. Yeah. There's no there's no metric for there's no metric for authenticity if you are empathetic. If you're empathetic, that means you're not real. You know what I mean? You're fake. You're phony. No one is really empathetic. You're making that shit up. And I think it's because a lot of people only duke it out online, if that makes sense. Like if all of your experiences are shaped by, if all of your interpersonal relationships and all your experiences are shaped by online back and forth, then yeah, that's very different than how you would operate in the real world. And therefore, because that's most of our social development now, especially in the post-COVID world, unfortunately, people think like being an empathetic human being and caring for others is fake. You're virtue signaling. Whereas vice signaling, on the other hand, is a true metric for authenticity. That's it. Being a bad person, like openly being a bad person, unironically is seen as a unironically seen as like being a real one, you know? And that's why there's people that like aren't even all that invested in being a right-wing ideologue that can simply present themselves as such as Mingold, okay? And of course, their output is all that matters if they're a content creator, as I've said time and time again, and are able to embrace larger and larger audiences as a consequence of that by vice signaling, by saying what is expected of them, by giving the audience exactly what they demand. And there are moments of honesty, okay? There are moments of honesty in that process where, like, Asman will sometimes be like, yeah, I don't care about this. I'm just saying it, you know? Or, yeah, I'm saying it because it's popular. What are you going to do about it? And it's, that's what it is. That's that straight up. Like, Trump kind of tapped into this too. Trump tapped into this. He is honestly dishonest. Okay? He is honestly dishonest. And people see that as like a measure of authenticity that is virtually impossible for anyone on the left to capture, especially if your values are motivated by being empathetic to others, you know? Why do you think being against Israel's actions is conflated, but being anti-Semitic by so many people after all the info that is just, no, because it's a defense mechanism, and Israel's development as a Zionist, a settler colonial project literally relies on the constant fears that if Israel doesn't exist as an ethno-religious supremacist state, then like all Jews will be killed and murdered and Holocaust will happen everywhere. Yeah. And that intentional conflation has caused people to obviously learn the wrong lesson there. They look at Israel and perhaps for the past couple of decades until this last decade, people looked at Israel as a positive state. People associated Israel with positive values, right? With the endless faucet of pro-Israel propaganda coming from mainstream news, while never really seeing what Israel was truly doing to the Palestinian population. Most people were like, yeah, Israel's good. And if you hate Israel, you're anti-Semitic. That makes sense to me. But now that people are understanding that Israel is not good at all, okay, and indefensible, utterly indefensible, and that association is now a negative one. And I have not been able to explain this to a lot of people that are not anti-Semitic but are super pro-Israel. They just don't understand that at all. It doesn't track. There's too much social conditioning and too much time that they've invested into believing that like this is a good conflation and not a negative one. And it's interesting. I know that it is not a positive conflation, and it's downright dangerous for the existence of Jews in the Western world, because my name is Hasan and I've lived in this country post 9/11. And if that conflation of like, for example, Islam and ISIS wasn't such a dangerous weapon, then the American media would not have lied and manufactured consent and implied that those two things are intertwined with one another over and over again in an effort to justify the war on terror. That's why I constantly make this comparison about Israel and ISIS, where it feels to me like, people run around and say, it always feels like, pro-Israel people who are not anti-Semitic are running around making that association themselves for some reason without seeing how dangerous that outcome is, how devastating that outcome is for the overall safety of Jews in this country that might not want anything to do with Israel, as a matter of fact. Especially with this current government heavily leaning into that, because there's a lot of institutional allowance using anti-Semitism as a weapon to wield against the First Amendment, against due process. Like, a lot of people, I think, don't understand that this is simply the entry point for this administration to enact a very scary agenda, to make it so that any criticism of Trump inevitably will be prosecuted with the full extent of the law. You'll be a terrorist. But the entry point into it is through anti-Semitism, through claiming that you give a shit about anti-Semitism, and liberals have allowed this administration to continue doing so. They've allowed it. You see it. There's too much time and too much money that was expended by pro-Israel groups that center themselves around like Jewish advocacy groups, even though they're not. They're just Israel advocacy groups. And they have virtually invaded a lot of think tanks and colleges and whatnot to create this idea that, like, yeah, this conflation is real. Israel is for the Jews and Jews are for Israel. And if you criticize Israel, you hate the Jews. There's, like, think about it. There are I can't think of a single other instance where, like, shitting on Christians in a country that is, like, bouldering towards Christian nationalism right now, shitting on Christians in this regard does not get you this same level of punishment. Okay? Shitting on no other marginalized group will ever get you this level of punishment. As a matter of fact, it will get you promoted, really. Right? Yet. You're right. Yet. Do you have a single fact to back that up? Which part? Do you think that like white supremacist anti-black sentiment is something that will cook you up in this country? All the parts. What do you want me to source? I can source anything you want me to source. In terms of the money spent from Zionist groups, like pro-Israel groups, I mean, that much is. I mean, look at AIPAC as a starting point. But yeah. In terms of the administration using anti-Semitism as a weapon to crack open and set very dangerous precedents against free speech, look at the ongoing legal battles that are taking place with Mahmoud Khalil, with the Turkish PhD student, with the Korean American who was almost deported but was stopped because they just couldn't find her. Yeah. This is a militant Zionist group threatening activists online with a deport list. A century-old Zionist group has resurfaced in the U.S. with a list of pro-Palestinian activists it wants arrested. Now, the funny part about this is that Beitar and ADL and all these other pro-Israel groups like Stop Anti-Semitism and whatnot were previously seen as like crackpots, not ADL, but Beitar and all these other ones. And now they're receiving a warm welcome. Now, let me tell you something. This is not a secret. This is not a secret at all. This is being done in broad daylight. If you pay close attention to some of the immigration enforcement stuff, you will recognize it, that is precisely what they're doing, right? They're already trying to create a chilling effect on speech by threatening, using the arm of the law, and threatening students that have engaged in activism. They're lying about them. And in some instances, they're not even lying about them. They're just simply saying, like, yeah, we don't like what you're saying. Okay? Here is the IHRA. Here's the person who created the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, saying weaponizing anti-Semitism makes students less safe. None of this, of course, matters because it's not about anti-Semitism. It's not about combating anti-Semitism at all. If you think that, you're delusional. It has always been about silencing anti-Israel protests and then using that new expanded the new precedent that you set against the First Amendment and expanding on that by declaring anything and everything a terrorist. It was never about keeping students safe. Of course not. What do you mean? Military presence on campuses do not keep students safe. Destroying free speech on college campuses does not make students safe. It's the exact opposite. Hasan reaction is one of the best ones in the React channel.